Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good night, depending on when you're listening to this. This is the Prokcast. It's a solo edition tonight. We did have some other people who were gonna hop on, but we were having some technical difficulties with them. So, unfortunately, they won't be with us tonight. So it'll just be me, and it'll just be me ranting really about what happened to the Yankees. That's really what this podcast is going to be about tonight. What happened with the Yankees, and where do you start? I mean, this team got off to such a hot start in the first half, historic start in the first half of the season. Looked like they were going to win 110, 115 games, and then next thing from the All Star break onwards, they had a terrible month of August where they were 10-18. Just ridiculous how badly they played. And I mean, they righted the ship a little bit in September, ended up winning the division, getting the number 2 seed, only to fall in 4 games. So for those of you who are new to baseball, you lose in 4 games, that's a sweep. So if you lose in 4 games in a 7 game series, that's called a sweep. And the Yankees got swept. They got swept out of the playoffs by the Houston Astros. And this isn't the first time the Houston Astros have knocked them out, not the second time. It's the third time. The third time in the last 6 years. So from 2017 to now, the Astros and the Yankees have met 6 times in the ALC. They've met 3 times, excuse me, in the ALCS, and all 3 times the Astros have knocked them out. There was also a wild card game in there. Dallas Keuchel. The Yankees couldn't touch Dallas Keuchel in that wild card game, and Yankees ended up losing there. So that's really the fourth time since you can kind of make the argument that the Yankees haven't been able to touch the Houston Astros. And what's wrong? Why can't the Yankees beat the Astros? They played 7 times during the regular season, and the Astros won 5 of the 7. They played 3 games in Houston. Houston won all 3. They played 4 games in the Bronx, and Houston could have won all 4. There was including a combined no hitter in that 4 game series in the Bronx. I believe it was in June, and the Yankee 2 wins were 2 walk-off wins. So Houston had the game won, had all 7 games won against the Yankees. And that's the biggest problem with this team right now. They can't get past the Houston Astros. And where do you start? I don't want to hear anybody say, well, they need to go get, Don Mattingly to manage, and they need to go get, Derek Jeter. That Jeter's the GM. That's not happening. Sorry to say, that's not happening. Boone's going to be back. Brian Cashman is going to be back. So how do you win? How did these guys win? This is what I say Hal Steinbrenner should do. Hal, you've got, I believe, 3 years left with Aaron Boone, and Brian Cashman has 3 years left. Give him a 3-year deal. And you say to both of them, listen, you guys have 3 years to bring me 1 championship. Now, ideally, I want 3, but you guys have 3 years. I need a championship. If I don't get a championship from you two, within the next 3 years, you're both gone. So if the Yankees, that's 2023, 24, and 25. If the Yankees don't win a World Series in 2023, 2024, 2025, Cashman's got to go. I don't think they're going to let him go now. They most certainly aren't going to let him go now. That's what has to happen. You need to let these guys know that we're not going to continue. You're not going to continually, be content. Well, I'm speaking from the fan standpoint. Maybe Hal Steinbrenner is content with what the Yankees are doing right now. Maybe he's like, you know what? We gave it our best. We're a playoff team. We're having winning records. We have millions of people coming through Yankee Stadium every year. We're making money. We're worth $7 billion. I'm happy. He doesn't seem to have that urgency and that fire that his father George did. And I think that's something that needs to be rekindled. He's maybe seems like he's one of those guys. We win, we lose. As long as we're making money. You know, what are you going to do with this team? Now, what's the roster going to be? Let's talk about the roster for a minute. Okay, a lot of moving pieces, and the big piece is number 99, Aaron Judge, the Yankee right fielder. If Aaron Judge does not re-sign with the Yankees, is it the worst thing in the world? I don't honestly think so, because from what reports that you're hearing, is that the San Francisco Giants are going to be very aggressive in getting Aaron Judge next year. So if they come out and say we'll give you a 10-year deal worth $500 million, it's not my money, but I don't even think it's the money. I think it's the years. You give Aaron Judge a 10-year contract, you're paying him till he's 41. Is that smart baseball? Absolutely not. So I don't think the Yankees have a problem with the money. I think the Yankees have a problem with the years. If it gets ridiculous, so here's a 10-year contract to a 31-year-old, move on. I wouldn't give Aaron Judge a 10-year deal. You crazy? To me, my max, if I'm Brian Cashman, I look, the Yankees have all the money in the world. Okay, they need give pay the man. I guess the question is, how long do you want to pay him? Do you want to pay him until he's 41? That's not smart, because baseball players start to break down post 35. Once they're 35 years old, after that, they're not the same players anymore. So the fact of the matter is that what do you do? I would cap it on the years. If the Yankees want to go out and pay him $50 million a year, I'd say okay, great, we'll pay you $50 million a year, but we're not going past 8 years. So that would work out to something like eight years at 400 million. I think my math is right there. Yeah, 8 years and $400 million. That would be my max deal. Now San Francisco wants to go. Well, we'll go 10 years at 500 million. We'll pay you $500 million for 10 years. I think the Yankees should be smart and walk away, because the contract is not going to end well. So I think that's my take on Aaron Judge. Would I love to see him back in the Bronx next year, number 99 in right field? Absolutely. But I don't think you should commit to him for 10 years. And if some team is going to commit to him for 10 years, do it. Now, I understand why the Giants have to do it. The Giants are looking up at a division where the Dodgers are a beast. The Dodgers have stars at every position. The San Diego Padres have Manny Machado. They've got Juan Soto. They're going to get Fernando Tatis back at some point in the 2023 season. And if the Giants want to compete, they need to go get Aaron Judge. So I understand what they would do. 10 years, $500 million. I understand all that. But if he really, loves the Yankee legacy and wants to be the next Yankee great, I mean, be realistic. 8 years, 400 million. That's the max offer the Yankees. If the Yankees go any more than that, it's not my money. So let them spend it how they want. So Aaron Judge needs to be addressed one way or the other. If he's gonna sign with the Yankees, re-sign with the Yankees, or sign with the Giants, or maybe there's a mystery third team, that we're not hearing about yet, but becomes prevalent, then maybe he signs elsewhere. But it seems like now it's the Yankees and it's the San Francisco Giants who will be, vying for Aaron Judge's services. Just to touch on the rest of their outfield, Harrison Bader became my favorite Yankee. I'll tell you when Harrison Bader became my favorite Yankee. When they clinched the AL East in Toronto, and he was the Yes Network got a shot of him. He was chugging beers with both of his hands, like some Stone Cold Steve Austin style. I was like, I like this guy. That's when I was like, I like this guy. And the way he performed in postseason, what was it, 5 home runs in the 2022 postseason. He seemed like he was the only guy who wanted to hit. He was the only guy hitting for power. So Harrison Bader, the guy's a Gold Glove center fielder. He can go get it. Got no issues in center field. I love Harrison Bader. Left field, who's going to be in left? Not who's on first, who's in the left for the Yankees? Andrew Benintendi. I think the Yankees need to re-sign him. I think if Benintendi and DJ LeMahieu were on this postseason team, I think it could have been a different result against the Astros. But I think the Yankees need to re-sign Andrew Benintendi. Looking at the infield, if you're going to go first, start with the catching position, I think they have to make it into a more of a true platoon because you saw at the end of the season and into the playoffs, Trevino just looked tired. He was just so tired. So I think they need to platoon between he and Kyle Higashioka a little bit more. I think what happened last year was Higashioka got off to a terrible offensive start, and Trevino was kind of hot. So the Yankees rode Trevino, was an all-star. And then in the second half, he just physically, looked, he got tired. So I think the Yankees need to go to more of a true platoon instead of just saying, okay, well, you're gonna get the bulk of the work. First base could be a big issue because there's no one no one outside of Anthony Rizzo who I think fits the Yankees anymore. He's a Gold Glove first baseman. He hits for power, and he's a left-handed hitter in a predominantly right-handed lineup. So I think the Yankees, outside of Judge being the priority for me this offseason, I think Rizzo would be priority number two. Because, the Yankees just don't have anything else at first base. There's nothing in their system coming, unless you want to go get Jose Abreu. And I think that's just another right-handed bat. You want to go get Yuli Gurriel from the Astros, steal an Astro player. He's 39 years old. So I think the Yankees have to re-sign Rizzo, and he does have an opt-out, so that's why we're talking about Rizzo leaving. He's got 16 million, but with the way he performed, he can go out in the market and probably get maybe upwards of 20 million. So I think the Yankees, it's imperative the Yankees bring him back because he's a vacuum at first base. Everything that you throw there, he sucks it up, and that is such a good feeling for the rest of your infield to know that, hey, I can just get something over there, and if I don't make a great throw, we got Rizzo over there who's gonna suck it up and make it look so nonchalant at first base. Yeah, Gleyber Torres. To me, he's fine. One way or the other, if the Yankees move on from Gleyber or they keep him, I'm okay with it. I think where they need to improve next year, shortstop and third base. Connor Falefa, trade him. Josh Donaldson, get rid of him. Hopefully DJ LeMahieu recovers from his injury so he can give you a full year at third base. Shortstop, you got to make a decision if you're the Yankees. Are we going to give Peraza a shot? Are we going to give Volpe a shot? Are we finally going to say, you know what, Carlos Correa, come be our shortstop? As he opted out from his deal with the Twins. Whatever happens, the left side of the infield, you can't have Kiner Falefa and Josh Donaldson be your solution at the start of 2023. So those are the position players. Of course, Giancarlo. I think you need to figure out a way to keep him healthy. So maybe don't play him in the outfield as much, but still let him play out there because he's not a terrible defender out there. He's actually pretty decent. He's got a good arm as well. So, but he's going to primarily probably DH next year. I'm looking at the rest of this team. Bullpen. Got to find bullpen guys that stay healthy. The Yankee bullpen, oh my. What a unfortunate story that was. Chad Green Michael King, losing those guys. And then, you lost Jonathan Loizaga for a little bit. Aroldis Chapman, I mean, he should never see a Yankee uniform again. No, don't even consider bringing him back, Yankee front office. You saw the emergence of Wandy Peralta. I mean, who would have thought you got such a premier reliever in Wandy Peralta, and all you had to trade was Mike Tauchman for him. So I mean, that's a brilliant move there. That's a brilliant get by Brian Cashman. Not, I mean, we knock a lot of your moves, and you can go through the years of all the moves he's made that didn't quite work out. But Wandy Peralta, the trade for Wandy Peralta most certainly did. Clay Holmes as well. At the end of the season there in the playoffs, Loizaga, Peralta, and Clay Holmes were your most trusted relievers. And you throw in Lou Trevino there, who I guess gained some sort of trust, but I mean he's not a back end really high leverage reliever right now. But it was a good pickup from Brian Cashman. Frankie Montas. Oh man, I mean, I can't sit here and knock the move because when the trade deadline was around, I wanted Frankie Montas because Luis Castillo had ended up in Seattle, so the Yankees needed a pitcher. He just didn't pan out. Hopefully, it was just because his shoulder never really healed. Hopefully, if you're the Yankees, you get his shoulder healed and you can re-sign him and put him in the back end of your rotation because he is a good pitcher. He's got one of the best split fingers in baseball. No, I do really believe that the Yankees need starting pitching, and there are going to be two very big names that are going to be starting, that are going to be on the market, I should say. You got Justin Verlander, and you got Jacob DeGrom. Now, DeGrom's going to want something like maybe $45 to $50 million a year. I wouldn't mind that because he's 34. So he's not looking probably for a 10-year deal. And I think the same thing with Verlander. They're not looking for, long-term deals. Maybe Verlander maybe on a maybe 2-3 year deal. And DeGrom maybe you have to go to 5 years, but these guys are worth it. DeGrom, in the range of 5 years at like 45 million per. Verlander probably the same, but I think that's the kind of arm the Yankees need to get behind Garrett Cole. Then you put him in there with Luis Severino, Nestor Cortez, back in, and you can get a fifth starter. Maybe you bring back Montas. Domingo Herman certainly an option. So but I think the Yankees need to get a high end starting pitcher. And Carlos Rodon wouldn't be. I mean, Rodon wouldn't be a bad pickup as well. Another lefty there. Clayton Kershaw, does he want out of LA? So these are all moves that Brian Cashman, and it looks like Brian Cashman will be the next GM of the New York Yankees. He'll just be continuing. You got to make these moves. I honestly believe. I think the offense will be fine. I think if you can get a full season out of Benintendi and you get LeMahieu back, you get Josh Donaldson and Isaiah Kiner for left back. Excuse me. And you figure out your shortstop situation. If you want to give Peraza a shot, you go ahead. You got Volpe down there as well, who can give you. So the Yankees have in-house options at short. So Correa doesn't necessarily need to be your first option. Now, the other question I would ask myself is, what if you went to Carlos Correa and said, "Hey, would you play third base?" Move Correa to third base. You have one of your shortstops, one of your young shortstop, whether it be Volpe or Peraza, man the shortstop position. move on from Gleyber Torres for DJ LeMahieu. Because I mean, apparently there was a deal at the trade deadline where the Yankees were going to move Gleyber for Pablo Lopez of the Miami Marlins. So it's clear that the Yankees don't really have an issue trying to trade Gleyber Torres. So I would seriously consider, maybe have Correa do what A-Rod did late in his career and move him to third base. And I just want to touch on, Boone and Cashman. Boone frustrates me so much sometimes with some of the things. Like I watch his press conferences on the Yes Network, during the regular season after the game, and it's just so frustrating to watch this guy speak with some of the things he says. And I know he's never gonna bash any of his players or anything like that. He's not that kind of manager. Sometimes it's okay to yell and scream, Aaron. It's okay to yell and scream at these guys. Light a fire under them. It's ridiculous. You're a nice guy. Okay. I watch your interviews. I watched you, last year when you were on Carton and Roberts, and now this year you started doing your interviews on the Michael K show. Aaron, it's okay to yell and scream at your players, man. It's okay. I understand in this generation of players, they have very fragile egos. And when you start yelling at them, they can check out very easily, and they'll go to social media and they'll unfollow the team, and they'll do all kinds of crazy stuff. And then the media is going to make a huge, you know, deal about it. But Aaron, you know, throw something. I always remember the scene from the movie Bull Durham. Early on in, they're a minor league baseball team, and early on in the season, they're struggling. And there's a scene where the manager picks up a bunch of baseball bats and he just chucks it at his players. We need something like that. That's exactly what Aaron Boone needs to do. You know, I wouldn't be motivated if Aaron Boone was my manager. Well, I'm not a big baseball player, but sometimes you need to be rah rah and yell at these guys. You know, and I don't know, but for those of you who don't know, there's a story that the Yankees had kind of like a mental fitness coach or something like that send around a video of the 2004 Red Sox. Are you kidding me? In the history of stupid moves, that was probably the dumbest thing you could have ever done. 2004 was one of the worst things that ever happened to a Yankee organization and their fans and whatnot. Being up 3-0 and then losing four straight to the Red Sox, and you're gonna send a video of that to the players to try to motivate them to win Game 4 against the Astros. I want to meet the idiot who thought that was a good idea. What idiot thought that was a good idea? That was the worst thing. Like, I'm speechless. When I first heard that, I was totally speechless. Because that was the dumbest thing you could possibly have done. I mean, I'm still speechless. The Yankees made me speechless after I heard about that. How can you do that? Why would you do that? So Boone, I know you're not a rah rah guy, and you'll stick up for your players regardless. Like, you can see a player go 0 for 4, but for some reason Aaron Boone thinks, oh well, he had great at bats. He had great at bats. Guy strikes out 4 times, but it was a good strikeout. Okay, yeah, it was a good strikeout. Okay, Aaron, Aaron, please be a bit more feisty next year. You know, I know it's not in your nature, but be feisty, man. Come on. Something's got to motivate these guys, and it starts with you. Now, you're not going anywhere. Hal's not going to fire you. Your job is safe. But like I said, Aaron Boone, Brian Cashman, you're on a 3-year plan, guys. You have 3 years to win a World Series. And if after those 3 years you don't win a World Series, Hal Steinbrenner, you've got to move on, man. You've got to move on from these guys. You're not going to do it now. And you know what? If this team keeps losing to the Astros, you got to figure out a way to beat the Astros. I know it's easier said than done because the Astros, were probably the best team in the American League. But you got to figure out a way, man. Get it done. Get it done. Cashman's not going anywhere. You know, Cashman makes brilliant moves and he makes, really stupid moves. You know, and that's the issue that I think a lot of Yankee fans have. Now, look, no person in the history of baseball has ever batted 1,000. You make outs, so you can't knock Brian Cashman for acquisitions that he's made. Realistically, did Frankie Montas end up paying out? No. Frankie Montas was supposed to be the number 2 behind Garrett Cole. He didn't pan out at all. But at the deadline, we all wanted Frankie Montas. But because maybe the shoulder never properly healed. Because he's a better pitcher than he showed. Like I'm saying, that's my plan. Brian Cashman, you've got 3 years. Aaron Boone, you've got 3 years. If the Yankees don't win a championship in 2023, 2024, or 2025, you're both gone. You're both gone. So as this fall and now then winter will set in, we'll see what the 2024 Yankees, excuse me, I keep saying 2024, the 2023 Yankees have in store for us. Whether or not are they going to, just trot out the same roster with no new moves, no new pieces, or are they actually going to, spend some money? And I don't want to hear, oh, well, the payroll is so high. You make more money than any other team in baseball. You're worth $7 billion as a franchise. Spend some damn money, Hal. Spend some money, Hal. Okay? If Aaron Judge wants $50 million, you give it to him. If he wants 10 years, different story. I will back the Yankees in saying, you know what, 10 years is too much. But you pay the man. You pay the man. You pay Aaron Judge. Because he, believe it or not, he is slowly becoming this generation's Jeter. And you already saw what he could do. 62 home runs, going to win the American League MVP this year. So he's going to get paid. Hal, go up to 50 million. I would go to 50 million for him, and I think you should too. Bring back Rizzo, bring back Judge, re-sign Benintendi. You've got Bader, very damn good outfield. You put Rizzo there. I think you're okay with LeMahieu at third base. If that's the move, Josh Donaldson, Connor Falefa, those guys are gone. Glaber, I'm really indifferent on him. I mean, if he stays, I won't be upset. If he goes, I won't be upset. I can go either way with him. But if you're the Yankees, you should really consider, if Judge does walk, Carlos Correa, and maybe move him to third base. And give your shortstop, you have 3 guys that can play short with Cabrera, Peraza, and Volpe. and eventually one of those guys is going to have to move to second base. So it's just a matter: is that guy going to be Peraza? Is it going to be Volpe? Is it going to be Cabrera? Then of course you've got Anthony Rizzo. Like to call him the vacuum. So it's just at a point now where the Yankees have to make the moves. The Yankees have to make these moves if they're going to compete. Because guess what? There were 4 teams in the American League East that had winning records. And the Red Sox aren't going to necessarily just lay down again for you. The Red Sox fell on some bad luck. They've got their own questions, but they're certainly in it like the Yankees, where they're a reload team, not a rebuild team. Baltimore was very surprising, had a winning record. Was in the wild card race up until the very end. Then of course you got Baltimore and Tampa Bay, excuse me, Toronto and Tampa Bay, who always seem to, well, Tampa Bay, you know, never seems to be intimidated by the Yankees. Always play them tough. And same thing with Toronto. Toronto's going to have mashers, and they're going to have mashers for a year with Vlad Guerrero and Bo Bichette. Springer's up there. So Toronto's going to have, mashers as well. So if you're the Yankees, you can't afford to fall behind, because that division, especially with the way Baltimore just came up out of nowhere and finished with a winning record and was so close to making the playoffs. So if you're the Yankees, you can't fall asleep on your division. So those are the moves I would like to see the Yankees make. And just this was more me like a venting session against for what just happened, and I also just want to spend a couple minutes talking about the World Series. And this year we got a good one here. Sorry, the Siri interrupted me. Um, the Houston Astros taking on the Philadelphia Phillies. So on one side you've got the team that was the class of the American League. That's the Houston Astros, and I'll admit it. The Astros were the best team in the American League. And you had the Phillies, who were the 6th-seeded team in the National League. So the last seed to get in. But what I always say is it's not about who had the best record. It's about who gets hot at the right time. And Philly got extremely hot at the right time. And that's why they're here. Houston should be favored to win this World Series, but let's not count that Philly offense out. The one thing we kept saying about this Philly team was that they're going to hit. No problems with them hitting. They're going to hit. The question was, are they going to pitch? And I think that's the advantage Houston will have over them. Houston can pitch. Houston's going to throw Justin Verlander in game 1, Framber Valdez, game 2, Christian Javier, Lance McCullers, in your first 4 games. If it goes past 4, you're going to see Verlander again, may see Valdez again. So if you're Philly, your keys to winning is very simple. I think you have to slug your way. And Bryce Harper seems like he's determined this postseason. Here's a guy, he left Washington to sign with Philly, and what happens after he leaves Washington? Washington wins the World Series. So you've got to give Bryce Harper, he seems like he's a man on a mission right now. And I don't want to hear anything about, both, the teams, one team was rusty. You both had about 4 days off, 4 or 5 days off, So I do think the one area Philly's going to have to worry about is Philly's going to have to worry about their pitching. I mean, outside of Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler, those are 2 starts. If you're Philly, you have to say, we have to win those games. We have to win those games and try to figure out how we're going to win the other 2 games. I remember there was a time where Philly, maybe a decade ago, Philly used to trot out guys like Roy Halladay to pitch, and Roy Oswalt and Cliff Lee and Cole Hamels. This Philly team is going to have to do it with their bats. And they're going to have to figure out ways to win 2 games when Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler are not pitching. Now, if those guys pitch 4 times in this series and Philly wins those 4 games, Philly won the World Series. I'm rooting for Philadelphia. I am not going to root for the Astros. I hate the Astros. I think I hate them more than the Red Sox right now, to be honest. But fairness, probably equal hate. But yeah, if you're the Phillies, you have a shot at winning this because your team is red hot offensively right now. Kyle Schwarber's hitting 488-foot home runs. Bryce Harper's hitting home runs. I mean, you can score. If you can score some runs on this Houston team, and it's not like Houston bludgeoned the ball against the Yankees. There were 3 close games, and then Game 3 was the 5-0 game where the Yankees got shut out on Garrett Cole pitching. But I think that's the one thing I don't know if there's a. See, I don't want to say that because there's just something clutch about these Houston Astros. Like if they fall behind, they fight back. So Philly can get out to a big lead, but Houston will figure out a way to come back. So that's what makes them so dangerous. So I think, if you're a betting man, you got to bet on the Astros, but Philly's offense can carry them. And if they can get the 4 wins out of Nola and Wheeler pitching twice, I really believe that Philly can win this World Series. And I'm rooting for Philly, but Houston's going to be tough. All right. Well, I just had to vent about the Yankees. So, good night. And thank you for listening to me. And I hope you guys are going to enjoy the World Series. I don't watch because I don't watch any World Series that the Yankees aren't in. So I won't actually be watching the World Series. But, once the World Series is over and the off season starts, I'm definitely going to have on some other guests. We were supposed to have some other people on tonight, but they were having technical issues with getting into our recording site. So this had to be a solo act tonight. And I hope I kept you entertained for this, 40 minutes? So, once the off season, and of course, as always, make sure you're listening to us on the radio show, the Prak and Friends Radio Hour at www.theblock105.com. You can hear us Thursdays at 9 p.m. for some awesome football talk where I'm joined by my boys Rabindra, Dinesh, and Alexander. And if you want to ever reach out to us, you can just shoot me an email at Prak and Friends. So that's PRAK and Friends. So PRAK and Friends at gmail.com. You want to tell me how excellent I am? You want to tell me how much you think of an idiot I am? Go ahead, shoot us an email. And of course, we have content up on our YouTube page. This will also be up on our YouTube page. If you're listening to this, you're on our YouTube page right now. So if you're on our YouTube page, just go ahead and subscribe and like this video. Make sure you're subscribing to our channel for wonderful sports content. So once again, giving you my World Series pick. I'm rooting for Philadelphia, but sadly, I think Houston does take this World Series. So that's my World Series pick. Just one more thing to say. So as the offseason unfolds, and there's news from around the league about whatever the Yankees are doing, or even the Mets, or a big signing. If Aaron Judge does not re-sign with the Yankees and he ends up in San Francisco, we'll definitely have to talk about that. So stay tuned for more. Stay tuned for more sports talk. Some baseball off season. So stay tuned to this channel, and you'll get some of the best sports content you'll listen to all day. Like I say, if you're not listening to the radio show or one of my podcasts, what are you really doing with your life? So on that note, I bid you a good night, good afternoon, good morning, whenever you're listening to this, and I'll catch you on the next one.